What's up? It's your Chicago bestie, Esco, and I'm here with another episode of Let's Go Esco. Today, I am at the Medieval Torture Museum here in Chicago. Yes, you probably didn't know that this was even right here. It's on State Street. It's huge. It's interactive. There's about 100 different medieval torture devices that you can walk through and play with. This is one of the biggest museums here in the city, and I think the country as a whole. So we're gonna go through, see what they got, and have a little fun. Let's go. The Medieval Torture Museum is based off of thousands of artifacts that they gathered throughout the Middle Ages. This stuff is all real, things that they have found either through documentation or stuff that was actually left behind. We got the knee crusher, we got people being impaled. It's a little bit of everything here. It's super dark, but it's not that scary. Nothing's gonna jump out at you. It's nothing like that, you feel me? You can bring your kid here, but they just have to have an adult. And then you can just come on and play and learn a little bit about our dark parts of history. This right here is the Cradle of Judah. They said this instrument was implemented to crush bones and it was here for several centuries. So I guess they just put you on this, spread you out as far as you can go. Your limbs pop out, you scream, you holler, and you eventually die. Right here we have an imprisonment of the cage. So it says, beginning in ancient times, this form of torture spread all over the world. During the Middle Ages, you were punished by being forced to stand in one part of the cage, and I guess it closes in on you and makes your limbs deformed. Damn. And I guess you just have to sit like this, be flogged and be paddled. This low-key is scary. Without anybody even behind me, I just don't like being like this. So this is just one device that they would have for you. Oh, yeah, and they would chop your head off. Boom. I think everybody knows about this, putting a rat on top of your chest and putting something hot on top so the rat tries to dig itself into your body to escape the heat. This is like one of the most popular forms of torture that's been in movies, books, a whole bunch of stuff. And you can see it right here at the Torture Museum, which is super cool. Oh yeah, so the barrel was putting a prisoner in a barrel of cold water, which was meant to be a deterrent for alcoholics and people that like to fight. So if you like to fight, you'll be stuck in that barrel, put some cold water, probably give you hypothermia, which really sucks. That definitely is torture. And that's really creative too. Again, another cage you could be trapped in. Like our friend looks so sad up in here. Oh, and his legs is bent backwards. I don't know if you can see. So you're probably just stuck in this really small, uncomfortable cage in a bad position for a long time, which definitely is torture too. So this dude has this big saw up in his hand, and what they do here is they will literally saw you in half. So the picture, they're hanging you upside down and they saw you straight down the middle with this big sharp thing right here. That's definitely torture. That's torture and killing you at the same time. That's crazy. Again, a bunch of other weapons to use. They said one of these is to cauterize women's breasts. So this is specifically for women's torture. Again, I don't know who came up with this stuff. I'm glad they long gone, because I would not want to go through any of this. Once again, the barrel. I said, again, if you was drunk, stick you in that barrel. Quick way to sober you up, that's for damn sure. This place is 6,000 square feet, so it's a bunch to walk through. I can see you spending a good maybe hour and a half going through if you're really reading everything, which is cool. This is nice if you have a date that's really into gory history facts and things like that. Or if you just want to come with your family and learn something real quick and creep them out, this is definitely another good spot. All right, so we got this super spiky chair, and I already know that you sit on this but this is called the chair of inquiries, which was used to interrogate criminals and heretics through the Middle Ages and the 19th century. So to make the torture even more intense, a fire will be started underneath your seat, because it's clearly not bad enough to be sitting on a thing of spikes. So you'll be burned and tortured alive at the same time. They even used this, they said, in concentration camps during World War II. So another sad little history fact for you. Over on this side, we got this guy that is broken and bloody. They said we have vices for the hands and for the head. I think everybody's heard of a vice grip. This is probably the beginning, the start of the vice grip. They said they would put your hands down and your head, turn the knob, press it down, and flatten your hands and head to a pulp, literally. Again, used for interrogation, used in Latin America and up through the 15th century. It's crazy. Let's see. So they call this a garrote. So appearing in Spain in the 18th century, this was an alternative to the gallows. It was first a stick that you would loop in through a strap or a rope. Later, the loop was replaced by a sharp spike. This was used up until the end of the 20th century, and the last place they used this was in 1990. So that ain't too far away. You would sit on this and literally have a spike in the back of your head. Let's see if I can sit and recreate it. I'm not gonna exactly put my head in because that's terrifying. But like I said, the spike would sit, I can feel it about at the nape of your neck, back of your head, which is terrifying. Again, another chair. This was used in medieval castles. It's unique. They said the chair is used for executions to have effective interrogation sections without additional tools. So again, you sit down, shackled from your feet to your waist to your head while they torture you. Man, some of this stuff is unbelievable. I would not have believed this if I wasn't seeing this at this museum. I know a lot of history facts already, but walking through this definitely takes the cake. I think we all know about the cutting of the tongue. We got my friend here and my poor other friend getting his tongue literally ripped out of his mouth. They said this was used in the Old Testament. You could probably read about this happening in the Bible. It was most often applied to con artists, heretics, and people suspected of sorcery. So all you witches and warlocks out there, you're getting your tongue cut out, sadly. This was used even in 2011. In Yemen, they said a poet had his tongue cut out for writing a poem in honor of a dictator. And so for that, 2011, they cut his tongue out. That's crazy. Damn. And then I guess you just simply get boiled alive. They said this is boiling in the cauldron and was used in ancient Egypt. So this was mainly used to punish people who disrespected the pharaoh. Sure, they would just light the underneath, put you in here with some water, and execute you, boil you alive like a pot of ramen. That's crazy. Even more torture devices, saws, ropes, whips, chains, things to flog you. You can all find that here at the Medieval History Museum, the Torture Museum. Damn, okay. Let's see what this do. I can pull it down, slowly swing the pendulum. Oh, wow. So again, you would be laying down, somebody would just pull this rope and it'll cut you in half. Saw you right through the middle. That's a scary thought. Like, I know I want to get snapped and cut open, but not like that. Definitely not like that. Let's go through here. Dang. You big bull. I think this is one of my personal favorites, the iron bull. They call it the Sicilian bull. They said, according to a legend, the device was built by order of the Sicilian tyrants. It was said that Valerius himself ended up roasted in his own bull by rebels. The spectacle form of this penalty would gain popularity in ancient Rome and Eastern Europe. So this became, sadly, a really popular way to torture people. So they put you in this cast iron bull with fire underneath that's roasting, and it would slowly get hotter until you practically melt inside. Like I said, this became super popular because of how flashy and showy it is, which bulls and cows are one of my favorite animals. So to see it being used for torture, again, ropes, flogs on the wall, and they said flagellation was whipping with various items like thin rods or sticks. It was used from ancient times to the present. So probably some places they still might flog you. They said even in private households they would do this, monasteries, schools used to do it. 10 to 20 lashes would inflict severe pain and leave scars. Some criminals were even whipped to death. But again, something else to torture you is just a big rack of spikes. You lay on the bottom spikes and then boom, it crushes you, which gotta be an awful way to go. As you can see, his ribs is popping out, bleeding. Like, that gotta be bad. Thank you, lovely folks, for waiting. And while you're waiting, we have our special Color Me Chicago books in for y'all. I just want you to color in it while you wait, and I hope you all enjoy.
Color Me Chicago and Full Venture Valley 1. Go check it out on Etsy. Shout out to Esco. We gone.
And they said this is Breaking on the Wheel. I feel like I've heard or seen this one before. I do watch a lot of creepy, gory stuff. The wheel was popular in ancient times and in the Middle Ages as a form of death penalty. During the Middle Ages, it was widespread throughout Europe, in Germany, and in France, and is considered one of the most painful and shameful ways to be executed. So I guess you are just tied up, your whole body. They spin you around, chain you up, and it breaks your bones as it goes along, which is a slow way to torture you also. So that gotta suck. Sorry to that man. Of course, we all know the being burned at the stake. For all my witches out there, Jeanne d'Arc is a popular person in history that was burned alive at the stake. They tie you up, put wood or kindling at the bottom, light a fire, and you just go up in smoke along with it. Another slow but popular way to torture and execute people. Damn, now this is a new one. This I haven't seen. So if you want to get close, these are bugs all alongside his body. So this is torture by insects. They said in Africa and Southern American countries, the victim was coated with honey or sugar, which explains kind of why he looks the way he looks. And they will coat you on top of that with bugs. In Cambodia, they would use poisonous spiders and scorpions. Again, another slow, shameful way to torture you to death, especially if you're not a bug person. I know my sister would flip at this one. She'd probably be dead before you even supposed to be gone, just having a heart attack. They even have torturing shoes with spikes in them. Sure, you walk on the ground, puncture your feet all the time. That has to hurt. More heavy shoes to torture you, balls and chains, things to tie you up. This has spikes up in it. This place goes through a lot of history. Like I said, you can find stuff from the Middle Ages to even ancient Egypt, all the way up to the present. As we said, there are some things that have been used as recently as 2011. So again, these torture shoes were designed to crush, injure, and deform your lower limbs especially. They were popular in China about 1,000 years ago, but then they spread to Europe and they were used in interrogations. So I'm learning that a lot of this was used to extract information out of people, which of course we know torture is most mainly used for. But to see that they used to have such extremes like this back in the day, this is nothing to waterboarding or all the stuff that we most commonly know today. So again, make sure you take a trip down here to State Street to the Medieval Torture Museum so you can see all of this up close and personal. Look at that. Yeah. So even in the chronicles of ancient Assyrians, Aztecs, and China, there are references to the flaying alive of captured enemies or rebellious people. Ripping the skin from body to limb were sometimes used as a part of public executions, or they would do it in private. So again, this is basically dismemberment and flaying you. Like how you chop up a catfish and flay the skin off, you can do that to a person too. Hang them upside down, torture them. And this is pretty much what a human body looks like without the skin. Just red and nasty and pink, which is awful. Yeah, this place is wild. I'm gonna walk through again with just my phone so I can actually enjoy this stuff. Well, like, listen to it, read it. Let's see. So this is a chest with body parts. People who committed particularly severe atrocities were sentenced to dismemberment, how we were talking about. Sometimes the executioner will kill so many people a day that they had to put the severed limbs into a wooden chest so they could quickly keep their workspace in order. So basically, this is his tool chest, but instead of tools, it's body parts. A bunch of dismembered heads, legs, so he could keep his workspace clean. Because you wouldn't want a head rolling around your office. That's bad. Again, this is the executioner. It would just be an old guy. They got permission to kill you. This is a manual guillotine, actually what he has in his hand. So the axe, instead of having to put your whole head down and having a machine, he would just do it by hand. Chop your head off and keep it moving. Guess that's more efficient than doing it this way as well. Another manual execution. He has no head. Oh yeah, no. Oh wow. This man has his eyes dug out. It's nothing to say, but oh yeah. So this cruel torture was used by the wild tribes of the Dark Ages and adopted by military concentration camps in the 20th century. In 1043, by the Byzantine emperor, they took prisoners and blinded 800 Russian soldiers. In the 12th century, there was an archbishop who did this to his rival, Pope Gregory VIII. Let me be quiet. Again, we have another thing to wrap around your neck. A neck trap is what this is called. They've been used all over the world since ancient times up until modern times and are used for escorting criminals. They're still used on prisoners in some countries today. They have sharp spikes and clamps, but in modern times, they are replaced by electrical shocks devices. So this is an olden form of a shock collar. I think I'd rather take the shock than the spikes. Yeah, I'm behind you. We have another tongue punishment. I think medieval people had a particular affection for messing with your tongue and your face. So they would be punished for gossiping, slandering, and making fun of people. It was used through the Middle Ages, and this torture was inspired by the Aborigines of ancient Oceania, which is messed up in itself. let's turn him. Let's see. Damn. So this is the Bloody Eagle. This was used by Scandinavian warriors in the early Middle Ages. This form of execution got its name because the lungs would be pulled out on the backside of either the spine and then spread out like the wings on a bird. Now that is creative. Let's see. This is definitely the spread eagle. So again, his lungs and ribs are ripped out from the back, kind of like a bird. Wow. Well, that's like you pulling them out through the back. It's like, I'm sure nobody survived after this. Like, you can't. They literally have moved your organs from the front to the back. Wild. Again, all of these torture methods and techniques are real. This is all documented throughout history and all facts that we have recovered over time. Even something as sick as this. So this is called the Spanish horse. Again, something you might have seen in a TV show or a movie. It was used during the 14th through the 18th century. Initially, the horse tortured women who were accused of heresy and witchcraft. However, because it was so effective, they started using it on men. Famously, the Italian Madani Lazzari was tortured on the wooden horse for 8 hours, even though she confessed after just 3. So they really like this technique. It got popular for killing women first, and then men. I think you sit on a sharp spike that impales you through your body. I see you also get weighed down by your feet, so it's pulling you down. I don't know who thought of this. Actually makes me not want to ride a horse or be on a rocking chair or anything anymore. So again, this is a whole bed that people would lay on. They said the use of this device is mentioned during the reigns of Alexander the Great and the Emperor Nero. It reached the highest popularity in England and France in the 15th century, was used through the 17th, and was primarily used for interrogation. And according to one source, there was a trader who was interrogated on this for hours before his execution. So this doesn't exactly kill you. I think it stretches you out to as far as you can possibly go, break your spine, your limbs, but they let you live, which is a particular type of torture. Reserved for my ex. Yeah, that seems about right. Let's definitely put him in this Yeah.
Wait, look at the chair.
Oh, and it got a heart in it. They're so funny. Someone had jokes up in here, but this is definitely reserved for my ex and probably a couple of y'all's. So again, this is the flute of shame, which is so crazy because it actually does look like a flute. They said this device was similar to the violin of gossipers and was used in the Middle Ages to punish musicians for a bad performance. So even something as simple as playing an instrument wrong could get you tortured. Special holes for gripping the flutes make the tool look like a snake, but I think they heat this up and make you hold it, or they chain you to it, and it's super heavy. So this is a form of torture. Not the most extreme, but don't play bad around these folks, clearly. Oh, and then this is the violin of gossipers. So again, it ties your arms up, your hands, wraps around your neck, and it's really heavy. So I can imagine wearing that for a day is definitely torture. Yeah. And I know we make jokes now, you know, the shackles on my feet so I can dance. You know, we got our gold shackles. They even kind of got one on now. But these were used throughout the world to bind the hands and feet of prisoners. We kind of already know this stuff, but the earliest examples date back to the Bronze Age, and a modern version of shackles are police handcuffs. So FYI, a lot of stuff that we did back in the day does still translate to today, just in different ways and not as extreme. Like this. Let's see, can I turn this? I don't want to break it. Oh, this one. So again, this is another wheel that they would break you and spin you on. They said this was popular in the Middle Ages as a form of the death penalty. It is considered one of the most painful and shameful ways to execute somebody. Again, just spinning you on a wheel and breaking all your limbs. This is called the scalding of the heels. As you see, this woman is stretched all the way out. Severely burning water will be put on the hands and soles of the feet. According to unconfirmed reports, scalding of the heels is still practiced to this day. Again, they still probably do this in some places. In recent years, several cases of torture were recorded in China involving scalding a person's feet with boiling oil. So, how you get popped when you make that bacon on the stove. Imagine getting popped all along your body. Damn. So I guess they would just scoop some stuff up and pour it all over your feet. And then your stuff looks like this afterwards. That's gotta be awful. I don't even like steam burns when I'm cooking, let alone being just coated with burning oil or water. This is called the fork of the heretic. Like, look at how he's positioned. This gotta be awful. They said the fork was used by the European Inquisition to force an apostate to admit his guilt and renounce heresy. Sometimes the victim would try to commit suicide by leaning forward. However, the length of the fork was calculated to the millimeter, so you could not get yourself out of this punishment. So even with a sharp thrust of the head, the victim could not kill himself. The fork was engraved with the inscription "Aburo," which translates to "I renounce." So you're tied up and you can't get forward, you can't lean forward, you can't move. You're stuck in this position with a sharp fork digging in your back. And you're stuck like that until you renounce whatever you were claiming. Damn. This place is super gory. Like, this is only for those that are not faint of heart and people that are actually interested in history and learning more weird facts like this. Please do not come if you're squeamish. I'm letting you know now. Esco don't never steer you wrong. This is the torturing table. You said what?
Do that one first.
Oh, this one first. So these are all brands. Just like how you brand a horse, you can also brand people for punishment. They said this was practiced all over the world and may have originated in ancient India. The purpose was to separate criminals and civilians and help in preventing escapes. So again, just like how we know during different parts of history, they would brand you so you could not escape. So a big heavy metal tool with whatever symbol they want to use. They just heat it up and press it to you. And now you are permanently marked so they know that you are a criminal. Damn, you can never escape. Permanent humiliation and punishment. With our friend here, this is the torturing table. During the Inquisition, tables with clamps and clasps for your limbs and various body restraints were used to immobilize the victim, and you could subject them to basically whatever at this point once they're tied down. So this girl is getting her back dug in, and not the good way. I think we all know about this one. So these are the gallows, which again has to be one of the most popular forms of punishment and still one of the most modern. Execution by hanging has been used since ancient times all over the world. Enemies of state, murderers, robbers, however big or small the crime may be, you could be hung at the gallows. The last person hanged in the US is Billy Bailey, who was executed in 1996 in Delaware. So this was used in the US as of recently in 1996, which is wild. Never would have knew that had I came here. The medieval torture collection reminds us just how much suffering humanity can inflict in the name of cause and justice when the right tools are placed in the hands of fanatics, madmen, and tyrants. Based on historical documents and engravings, there are an unprecedented collection of cruelty recreating the atmosphere that prevailed throughout most of the Middle Ages. For several years, a team of scientists, historians, decorators, and sculptors have worked on creating this collection that you see, consisting of several hundred pieces, and this place is 6,000 square feet. So the hands. This kind of torture enjoyed popularly among jailers in the medieval ancient Asia, Europe, and pre-Columbian America. There are many ways to inflict damage to a suspect's hands in order to get necessary information from him or confess guilt. This type of torture is still used in some countries, including the Middle East. So you just stick your hand out and they can do whatever to you, which is an unusual and cruel form of punishment. Whether it's just cutting them off, breaking your fingers, driving nails through them, you could do about anything. These right here. Oh, so this is even more branding tools. Like to use a heated iron. Branding was practiced all over the world. Again, it could be something as small as this, as these right here. Initial, a symbol, and you're marked forever. These brands do not go away.
Who wrote this?
This one. So these right here are masks. As you can see, they come in various forms, but they're all to inflict torture and shame upon the wearer. These masks were devised for public ridicule. They would label the wearer of such human vices as gossipers, eavesdroppers, people that were gluttonous, or suspected of debauchery. They were invented in England in the 16th century and were popular in Europe for around 200 years. So again, a mix of torture and public embarrassment. Shame in itself is a form of torture. It does. Each room does get crazier and crazier in here. It loops in a circle, but each room has something different and mind-blowing up in here. Like, I have learned so much just walking through and reading everything that they have collected in here. So again, this is a guillotine. It's kind of heavy, but you pull it up. It's a big axe in there, and you drop it down, and it cuts your head off.
You peep the head off.
Let's see. It's creepy. Oh.
Hold on before we start that.
The Medieval Torture Museum is the largest interactive torture museum in the United States. They have a couple of these in different cities. Chicago, LA is one, and then St. Augustine in another country. Yeah, I'm gonna read this. Witch bathing. It was popular in medieval Europe and America during the colonization time as a method of Let me start over. This is witch bathing. It was popular in medieval Europe and America. The person was dunked into the water, and if he or she drowned, then they were posthumously declared innocent. And if you survived, you were burned at the stake for being a witch. So it's kind of a lose-lose either way. So let's see. That's scary. Yeah. That looks like such an uncomfortable position too. Again, we have another weird and unusual form of torture called the gyridian. This type of torture device is usually described as an ordinary metal grill, 6 feet long and about 2.5 feet wide. It is mounted horizontally on its legs in order to be able to make a fire underneath. So a man would be shackled to the gyridian, making it impossible for him to stand up. Lying on this grill, essentially, victims receive burns from the hot metal and the flame. Christian St. Lawrence was tortured on a similar grill. So basically you are barbecued as a form of punishment, which has to be extreme. They have a breast tearer and other tools. This was used in the 15th and 18th centuries for the breast of women This was used in the 15th and 18th centuries. This device was used to tear the breasts of women convicted of witchcraft or performing an abortion. The metal was often heated to a red hot temperature. And they would use it, I guess, to pry your chest open as a woman, which I don't even want to imagine that. Another infamous cage, imprisonment in the cage. Beginning in ancient times, this type of torture was popular all over the world. Sometimes a cage with a criminal inside of it will be dipped into water. So essentially you are trapped and drowned. Damn.
You didn't do this.
No, this one. Oh, shit. So this is a bench crucifix. It was used by inquisitors to interrogate and torture prisoners. The victim would be laid out on the bench and their limbs would be strapped tight against the wooden bars with a rope. The executioner would adjust the tension in the rope, which constricted the wrists and ankles of the victim. Sometimes this was called neurosis of the tissue and irreparable damage to the limbs. So again, another device where you'd be laid and spread out, tied down, and pulled to the brink of your limbs popping and breaking. That's the last one. And this probably looks like the safest thing up in here, just some rope, but this is called the cord, the rack or the lifting bar. It's first mentioned as early as 1229. The victim's hands will be fastened with a rope behind his back. They were sometimes then lifted by this rope, and the additional weight would be tied to their feet. During the Spanish Inquisition, it was called the estrapado. So even as simple and nice looking compared to everything else up in here, just something as simple as a board and some rope could torture you to death. So this is the estrapado ladder. This was introduced by an unknown German executioner who was thinking way outside the box. The painful pressure of the cross beams on the back occurs through stretching. This was commonly used for interrogation in Austria, the Czech Republic, and Hungary. So mainly through Europe, again, another thing where they would tie you down, stretch you up and down this time instead of horizontal, and pull you apart as if you are a piece of meat, literally.
55 miles. It's on this side.
Okay. This one. This is the throne. Again, you would think something as simple like this would not hurt that bad, but this was used by inquisitors in the late Middle Ages to interrogate criminals. Curious fact, the legislation that regulated the use of torture allowed the use of the throne only once during an interrogation. But most inquisitors got around this rule and prolonged the torture for several days under the guise of it only being one session. So you would be tortured for one session for up to 8 hours or more to get around the loophole, which that is some tricky stuff. I don't even think people deserved all of that. But again, just something as simple as a wooden board, a throne, a chair could be turned into the most crazy form of torture that you could ever think of. This place has a bunch of amazing facts that you would never find anywhere else. This is stuff that they do not teach you. So if you want to learn about the unknown part of history, you can only find it right here in Chicago's Medieval Torture Museum. And then after you take a gory walkthrough, you can come to the gift shop and get you a nice souvenir. But thank you for coming and tuning in to this episode of Let's Go Esco. I hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed walking and looking at all the crazy stuff with me. This has been Esco, and until next time, let's go.